Ever wanted a career in football? At the Global Institute of Sport, you can now study a master's degree in football business or football coaching and analysis right here in Australia. GIS is the largest provider of sports degrees in the UK, with campuses at Wembley and Etihad Stadium. Learn online with unique access to the iconic MCG and a big-hitting Australian industry network. Be one of the first Australians to get a football master's degree and join GIS's global network of football leaders. Apply now to start in February 2023. Learn more at gis.sport/FNR. That's gis.sport/FNR.
You're listening to the State of Our Football Nation on FNR. Another episode of State of Our Football Nation just about ready to start. And as usual, Pokuah Frimpong joins me. She's running the controls, manning everything that needs to be manned and making sure that this is as seamless an opportunity over the next hour as possible. A big weekend of football, some amazing results, some incredible goals. And if you look carefully, the Arsenal supporting Pokuah Frimpong is wearing Chelsea colours. Now, what I'm trying to discern is she doing it in a mocking fashion to say, spend all the money you've got, Taboli. It's not going to help you one little bit because her Arsenal is going to run relentlessly to a title. Is that your psychic and big mantra that you're running out and streaming globally on FNR?
No, you see, George, when I got it, I did just like the kit. But then I started thinking about it. How am I going to spin this to people? How am I wearing a Chelsea? But it's
getting warm in here. And look, I'm wearing red.
It is a bit of mockery to Chelsea. My dad's a Chelsea supporter, and I was like, hey, take that player.
You're paying homage to Dad.
Yeah, but
that's all right. That's fair. Hey, what have you made of them? We'll get on and talk about State of Our Football Nation in Australia. But before we do that, and we've got a special guest coming up with us, who, by the way, I love that ad about GIS, the Global Institute of Sport, because we're going to talk to a man who's made a career, not only playing the game, but also working in the game and putting back in the game. And he's a goalkeeper, no worries. His name is Steve Mautone. And I have always revered his actions and his support. He's even a Jehovah man and they make some wonderful kit. I don't know if they do the Chelsea kit, but they've done an array of other clubs over the years. So pray tell me the story. How have you spun this Chelsea top this morning or today?
I wear it in honour of Mudrik's failed career now because it's set to fail at Chelsea.
No. He's going to be able to look after his family for the next 100 years.
He certainly is, because Chelsea have certainly overpaid ridiculously.
Should you just explain for those that may not have caught up what this fiasco, what this brouhaha, what this extraordinary story it's almost a fable. It doesn't make sense in any way, shape or form. And if you speak the lines, good business, I'm going to laugh all my way out to the Docklands. So where do we start? Arsenal went looking for a young talent.
We went looking for a young talent.
Shakhtar Donetsk.
And we've been looking at this guy even at the summer. We take a real good pride at Arsenal of finding these quality players, and we work really, really hard at it.
Yep.
And the whole media, Mudryk was posting Arsenal on his social media, talking about how great of a coach Mikel Arteta is.
Yeah.
He wanted to come to Arsenal, and Chelsea said, you know what? Arsenal are doing well. Let's copy what Arsenal are doing, and have flew to Poland.
God, you're spinning this well.
And spent 100 million and give it to Shakhtar. 20 million of those.
This is 100 million euros.
I think it's like 138 million Australian dollars.
Australians can't comprehend that amount of money.
No, that is a ridiculous amount of money. And not only have they overpaid for this player, they have doubled essentially his wages that Arsenal were going to offer him.
My God.
Which I think it's very hard for him to turn that down, because he wants to go to the Prem.
Hey, listen,
it's ridiculous money.
Professional footballers.
And he's
And even if he only survives 3 years, he's made a mountain of money out of Chelsea.
And Chelsea have stuck themselves in this spot for an 8-year contract. you know what, they can do
Wow.
that. But Arsenal, we did beat your beloved Spurs.
Yes, you did.
We
You did. It took a wonderful howler from our goalkeeper early on, our World Cup winning goalkeeper. And that sort of set the trend. But Arsenal have been playing some marvellous football all year. And despite what the naysayers and others have been talking about, and I love the pundits. The pundits are all experts now. Because from week one, but can they stand the pace?
Every
and
time,
will they have what it takes? Yeah. Now everyone's on board.
Everyone's on board.
Which makes me ill. Because my view is, if you believe in something, stand by it.
Yep.
And then at the end, if it shifts and changes, you go, I was wrong.
Yeah.
But no, we won't hear that word or that phrase uttered by anybody.
I do love, George, constantly hearing the tests come up. Everyone's like, oh, Arsenal, this test. And we faced everyone.
Who you got next? Manchester United?
Manchester United. So we lost to Man United, unfortunately, because of a poor VAR decision that the referees did. And it was a poor referee.
We're not going to go into excuses.
But
you've been superb.
We've beaten Tottenham twice.
Yep.
We've
at home and away.
We've beaten Liverpool. We've beaten Chelsea.
Geez, everybody's beating Liverpool.
Yeah.
What is going on there?
Yeah, that's a different place. But the only team we haven't faced was Man City because we had our Ajax game got moved in the Europa League, so we've got to play them twice now.
Congratulations, Roberto De Zerbi. What a fantastic series of events turning out at Brighton.
Yep.
He's come in. Potter, of course, their coach de jour, which has gone to Chelsea. Wait. De Zerbi, everyone's going, oh man, he's got an enormous challenge ahead of him. Not only has he accepted the challenge, they're playing some sparkling
phenomenal football.
Oh,
Brighton just work really, really hard, and they do all the basics well. And
that's
I just
a very good point you make, because you know what he said at the end in the press conference in front of the cameras?
What did he say, George?
He said, I just want everyone to understand we haven't got a team of stars, and we only can make it work if everybody puts in their shift.
Absolutely.
Now, that sounds like pretty simple stuff.
Yeah.
But apparently it's
very difficult.
It's a very difficult thing for a whole lot of other clubs around the world. Now, speaking of around the world, let's bring it back to Australia. Yeah. State of our Football Nation on Football Nation Radio. George Danekian, joined by Pokuah Frimpong. And we're going to talk to our first guest. He's made a living in this game. He's played it. He's a character and a half. He's sold some fabulous gear. But I understand now he's back as a goalkeeping coach. You can't keep good people down.
No, you can't.
Steve Mautone. Is it Mautone or Mautone, Steve?
He's. I don't think we haven't got Steve just yet. He
should be pressing the button and saying, I'll be joining you guys.
I'll chase him up.
Okay.
But
chase him on.
No, I feel like people that are great, they'll just find themselves in new avenues and they'll succeed at it.
They do. They reinvent themselves. They take a leaf out of... Have you ever heard of Madonna?
I have heard of Madonna.
You're just old enough to remember? Well, Madonna's secret from the time she was 17 was every 5 years or every 3 years, she'd reinvent herself. She'd make herself blonde. She'd make herself brunette. She'd go redhead. She'd go blue hair. She'd go every colour imaginable. And she would also adopt a different persona, a different stance, a different aggressive position. And at all times, it was dance, it was music, and it was always about Madonna. And, so well did that template work for her. It was picked up by a woman called Lady Gaga.
Yes.
And everybody else that's followed has gone down the same pathway.
Who would have thought that on State of Our Football Nation we talk about Lady Gaga and Madonna? Who would have thought about?
Well, it's this eclectic world that we live in, where media is everywhere. And by the way, while we're waiting for Steve to join us, how did your weekend commitments go with Paramount Plus?
It was really, really good. We had the Canberra-Newcastle game. Canberra came out 5-1 victors. And
that's not a game. That's a shame.
It is a shame.
5-1. Did you see it coming?
Not the scoreline. I did think it was going to be. I did think we were going to get lots of goals in that game. I thought it was going to be a lot closer because Newcastle have not got the results they needed this season. But I still think going forward they're really good. But they have some real defensive struggles.
Wow.
But when you've got someone for Canberra, when you've got someone like Michelle Heyman, who's scoring,
when Heyman turns it on, she's got that speed and flair, and she's played around the world.
She might be the coolest player in the comp.
That's an interesting that's an interesting perspective, and I'm going to say to you, we spoke to a young woman earlier this year who I think is going to be one of the coolest, one of the strikers out of Brisbane Roar.
Yeah. Shay
remember?
Connors.
Yes.
Shay Connors, she is.
I reckon she's pretty cool. She's travelled the world.
Yeah, she's pretty
Nothing
cool.
much phased her.
Yep.
And she was prepared to put in, the hard yards and pump up the story to bring others from Brisbane Roar to join us on air. Yep. And we've got to follow that up, by the way.
We do have to follow that up.
And we've got to follow up with Willow, David Williams, who scored the most fabulous goal for Perth Glory. Just when you thought Willow might have run his race, he just, 106th minute of the contest, he decided unerringly to put it in the back of the net. And let me tell you, the Perth Glory fans, which haven't had too much to cheer about.
They really haven't.
They went spare. And I can use spare because that's the biggest selling book in the world today. So we're covering all the topics.
George, you're on fire today. You're coming with all the references. We've got.
It's your inspiration.
We've got Prince Harry references. We've got Lady Gaga and Madonna. I like it.
It's the abandonment of all the old rules and the adoption of the Pokuah Frimpong, mantra.
I think we're run to a good formula. Run to a good formula here, George.
So, what did you make? What did you make of some of the other results? Melbourne City ran into a pretty hard-working Western Sydney Wanderers. They looked for a long, long time that they might get the points, only to wait for what is it, Richard Devonner, to do something that just crushes goalkeepers. They watch the ball float beautifully into the back of the net.
Yep, they did.
In that place where only the spiders tend to travel.
Do you know, I've been, in terms of just Western Sydney, I think Mark Rudan's done a really good job.
Is it Marco or
Marco? I think it's Marco actually this year, that the change. But I think that he's done a good job with that squad. And Callum Newenoff, I'm a massive, massive fan of him. I believe we had him on.
Yep. And what a sensational interview he gave us.
Yeah.
And remember how much
I think that was
insight
before his he really peaked, George. I think maybe State of Football Nation really sparked him.
We may have given him the sort of license and played that catalytic role of going, young man, don't be afraid.
Yeah, exactly.
Go for it. He has been, for all the Sydney fans, the worst possible thing you could see, because he was one of theirs.
And then goes to the other side.
And they hate losing their cubs. Marco Tilio came to Melbourne City and has just, grown and played some beautiful football and continues to grow and mature. Young Ewenhoff is playing at a different level of football, again showing us and showing all those who are football people that if you give youngsters the right environment to thrive, and if they've got the talent, they will.
No, certainly, and he is a prime example of that. And I really like his work rate. For me, when I watch footballers, I want footballers who work really, really hard, who go after the second ball, who make really smart decisions, and just like they really
who don't watch,
and they're really cerebral about the game of football. And Callum is that, and he seems really calm when he has the ball. And I think it's propelled Western Sydney to be better than what they,
Beautifully said, because that's how he spoke to us. He spoke to us like pretty low. Nothing much phases me.
Some of those players
We're looking forward to coming to play Victory at the time. It was the Western Sydney Wanderers game against Victory. Victory had come off this huge win. Western Sydney Wanderers were like chump change for the Victory. And look how their seasons are going. And he's been a revelation. How far away is he from rep football? Am I being too brave or too bold?
I think that he gets a big move.
Yep.
And I think that's I think that he deserves a big move.
No, can't argue.
Yeah,
and we should explain.
Maybe to Hearts.
One of the reasons why he left Sydney was he had a horrendous injury, a long-term injury, which took a toll, and people don't readily appreciate how difficult it is to come back from injury.
Yes.
And if we catch up with Steve, I'd like to cover some of that territory. I also want to cover up, not cover up, but discuss some of the goalkeeping howlers that we've seen of late. Why is it continually happening? And is the new football, is the modern football creating its own challenges and anomalies
Yeah.
because it skips in the air. People don't understand
I wanna know.
that in my time, balls didn't skip in the air.
Yeah.
You had to hit it with prodigious strength and power to make it move, and there were some who were brilliant at it, but it didn't deviate and skip like the balls of today do.
They certainly are deviating a lot.
They're like a golf ball with all these dimples
it's because
on them.
I remember when the Jabulani came out for the 2010 World Cup, and everybody
speaking foreign language now.
Yeah, everybody was like, "Oh, this ball moves crazy," and then Diego Forlan mastered it. But it seems that all the footballs now were basically like that, and they're causing a lot of difficulty for.
Remember the first time we actually watched with interest, and it was with the arrival of the HD cameras, where you could see Ronaldo and Messi and others hitting the ball on the edge or on the point or around the corner.
The knuckleballs.
And you could see the ball dipping and, of course, creating a path that wasn't as you imagined it in your eyes, whoa, what's he doing there? And young Pickford, the Everton keeper, what was he thinking and where was he looking when Ward-Prowse delivered another one of those marvellous chip shots. You notice he's got the best golf swing you've ever seen on a footballer? He scores the goal and he goes, whip.
Yeah.
My view on that is just hold it until you win the game, and it's always better.
I will say, George, I saw something on social media about Ward-Prowse being potentially one of the best free kick takers.
Consistently, he's delivering.
Do you agree with that?
I'd go so far as to say that he's right up there in that upper echelon because, we haven't got a free kick taker at Spurs who can hit a target. And that's sad to say because we had some really good ones.
We certainly did.
Yeah. There won't be any Pushkash winners this year.
No.
Golly, gosh. By the way, last week we spoke to Benita Mercedes.
We did.
Here's some news. Authors, journalists, broadcasters, and dare I say it, even commentators are coming to the party. We've got 11 countries being represented as part of the international lineup of football writers. The big festival happening a little bit later this year, and it will take place at the Tara Walsh Bay venue in Sydney from the 15th to the 17th of July. And if you're wondering why they've put it there, it's only days before the opening match of the Australia Women's World Cup, and that's the Australia-New Zealand Women's World Cup down under. And 3 guests, Thomas Hitzelberger, as Benita mentioned, former Stuttgart man, played for Aston Villa, I remember. He's now a football commentator. You might be able to
I might get
pick his brain. He's also a diversity ambassador for German football, which is terrific. But he's also the co-founder of Football for Nepal, which is the football charity partner of the Football Writers Festival. And Nepal, again, in the news for all the wrong reasons over the last couple of days. An Australian among the victims, possibly, where we're waiting for confirmation. 69 people have been killed in that horror crash coming into an airport in Nepal. People don't readily appreciate just how the flying conditions there vary to the conditions they face in every other country in the world. The highest peaks, the winds, the sheer force of the winds. The pilots have got to be well trained, and the equipment's got to be up to date and or up to standard. And if there's any challenge or problem, unfortunately, it shows up. So much to talk about, much to discuss. There are some real characters that Benita's unearthed. Kiara McCormack is from Canada. She played 8 games for Ireland, and she's had a tremendous professional career in Denmark, Norway, Australia. A whistleblower. Also for helping the professional clubs and the federation in Canada get ahead. And then, of course, there's Claire Shine, who's just 27, and you'd think a long career in football. No, she's had what they call a prodigious underage talent, but she's now a writer.
She's a writer.
She's decided she knows her boundaries.
Yep.
and prepared to call it as it is this early.
I like it.
All three have got something to offer, and it'll be something. If you want to be part of it, check the website. It'll be something worthwhile. And Benita has been doing this now for quite some time, and these festivals are making a name for themselves. Let's take a short break. When we come back, catching up with our special guest on the state of our football nation with Pokuah Frimpong and George Stanikian.
Ever wanted a career in football? At the Global Institute of Sport, you can now study a master's degree in football business or football coaching and analysis right here in Australia. GIS is the largest provider of sports degrees in the UK, with campuses at Wembley and Etihad Stadium. Learn online with unique access to the iconic MCG and a big-hitting Australian industry network. Be one of the first Australians to get a football master's degree and join GIS's global network of football leaders. Apply now to start in February 2023. Learn more at gis.sport/FNR master's degree and join GIS's global network of football leaders. Apply now to start in February 2023. Learn more at gis.sport/FNR. That's gis.sport/FNR.
Are you looking to change your destiny in life? Be your own boss? Start your own business? If you are, you need people who understand your needs and are committed to helping you make it happen. At DKP & Co Chartered Accountants, we are more than just accountants. We are business advisors, taxation consultants, and strategists that specialise in setting up businesses. We understand the client and give them the very best customised advice and strategies to achieve their goals. Visit our website dkpco.com.au or give us a call today on 03 9023 9370. Fast, proactive, personal. That's DKP & Co Chartered Accountants.
With this great sporting nation who has yet to embrace fully the world's greatest game, and for so long of trying to have the game accepted. When I'm up to the big football field in the sky, I just want people just to remember I told you so.
And suddenly the complexion of the game changes. Let's hope it doesn't, but this is the best period for Iran in the match. Ali Dodi, danger for Australia here, the flag's down! It's an equaliser!
You just feel for them, not just the boys, they are representative of so many people who make this game their life. It's just, no, I can't say anything, mate.
All right.
Especially as they have the impetus. Aloisi, Cahill, Cahill! Tim Cahill has done it again! What a goal by Tim Cahill! 2-1 Australia! Oh, it's a wonderful moment in Kaiserslautern! And Tim Cahill has come off the bench and maybe won the match for the Socceroos.
You're listening to FNR, Football Nation Radio.
Penalty conceding kind of situation, but Atkinson did well. Oh my goodness! Have you seen a more freakish goal in A-League history? Riley McGreen with a scorpion kick into the top corner. It's one of the most amazing things we've ever seen. Come on, Ernie, on your feet.
You're listening to FNR, Football Nation Radio.
Ever wanted a career in football? At the Global Institute of Sport, you can now study a master's degree in football business or football coaching and analysis right here in Australia. GIS is the largest provider of sports degrees in the UK, with campuses at Wembley and Etihad Stadium. Learn online with unique access to the iconic MCG and a big-hitting Australian industry network. Be one of the first Australians to get a football master's degree and join GIS's global network of football leaders. Apply now to start in February 2023. Learn more at gis.sport/FNR. That's gis.sport/FNR.
You're listening to the State of Our Football Nation on FNR. And as we do each and every week, proudly brought to you by GIS, the Global Institute of Sport. They do a terrific job. In fact, they give people an opportunity to have a career in the game beyond their playing time. And someone who knows all about that is Steve Mautone, who joins us on Football Nation Radio. Steve, welcome. Goalkeepers Union says hello.
Hey, George, thanks for having me on, mate. It's a pleasure.
My absolute pleasure. By the way, we should let people know of your latest gig because it's only just come through. What have you done? You've got yourself another gig in the game.
Do you know, George,
I'm listening.
I think we just lost him for a second.
Just bear with us.
Yeah.
Where are you, Steve? I wonder who his provider is.
Yeah, that's always the question I
say
ask
to
myself.
people.
I'm like, what's happened?
Yeah, are you with Optus? Are you with Telstra?
Who are we blaming for this
Debacle. He's back.
He's back.
well, you know, I wanted to be a parent, and that's why I hadn't really been doing any coaching for the last year or so. And, you know, they had a bit of an issue and parted ways with their technical director. And I just couldn't help myself, you know. I actually sat and spoke with the president down there, Sam, and spoke with the guys, Peter Salakis and Tangers, who do the first team. Were really encouraging of you know, promoting youth players, and I just got a really good feeling about him, George. You know, and you know, maybe also a glutton for punishment. Because my business has had no attention whatsoever in the last 48 hours. It's been all football and it's
Come
been
on,
fantastic,
you love it.
mate. Something I love.
You
I
love it. Listen,
I love it.
let's go back and give people a bit of a background on who Steve Mautone is. You were the goalkeeping coach at Victory for a while, were you not?
Yes, I was. Yeah. So part of my coaching career. I actually spent a bit of time playing in the UK and then started my coaching career in the UK, and then decided to move back home and connected with Ernie Merrick, who was the coach at the time, and I spent a good 10 years at Victory.
Wow. Which
we
explains why we don't spend that much time, because I'm a City man, you were a Victory man, and we sort of had to keep a sort of healthy distance. But just before we go any further,
that's right.
Tell me what brought you back. Was it feeling like you missed home, you missed the support of your friends, or did you see the football marketplace there as a very difficult place to address and sort of get on top of?
No, look, I think I spent enough time in the UK to have established myself within the system there. So I think if I had gone into the coaching side of things, I would have had an opportunity at some level. I don't know what level that would be. And then who knows where it would have taken me. But the fact is, I came back in 2006. The A-League started the year before.
Correct.
And obviously with my connections and family and everyone, all I kept hearing about was this A-League and this Melbourne Victory and what a support. And, you know, I've got cousins and friends who are just mad, passionate supporters at the old Olympic Park. And I don't know, I just felt that it was maybe a good time to come back to Australia and be part of something that was quite special. And if you can recall sort of that 2006, I know you're a City fan, mate, just try and remember.
Sorry, I was a Melbourne Heart fan at that precise moment. At that precise moment, we hadn't started. Oh, had we started? No. We didn't come in until a couple of years later, because what people don't readily appreciate is the Victory contract or the Victory license was there was 5 years of no movement. No one could interfere. No one could come into the marketplace and disturb the Victory. But also, too, that opening decade from Victory was pretty spectacular.
It really was.
Yeah?
It was not just on the on-field performances, but, you know, guys, I would never have imagined being involved in a soccer team, let's call it, football, who were commanding a stadium like Eddie had at the time, or
Telstra Dome,
Marvel, Telstra Dome, Eddie had Marvel, who were commanding that sort of stadium and housing 40 to 50,000 at domestic home and away games. It was it would have been just unheard of. I just could never have imagined that happen. So the movement of the A-League was absolutely fantastic at those early sort of mid-2000s and late 2000s. And then not just for Victory, also Sydney, Adelaide, the Perth, they were all, there was just a buzz, the whole, I think the whole pay TV, EPL type scenario was winning over some fans, and then the A-League got those fans to actually get bums on seats, So I think it worked really well, and Victory.
That point that you made,
just rode the wave with some.
Oh, look, it did erode away. I think the point that you make about Fox at the time being your national provider on pay, and that was their way of building a subscription base, but they also had the EPL. And it was a logical, you watch one and then you follow it on and stay overnight and the next morning and watch your favourite EPL side. And it seemed to be a lovely fit. Then when of course the Fox deal fell over or came to a natural end, we saw this migration to streaming, which a lot of the country had no idea. And there are still people today who have been seriously challenged by the technology. And let me just tell you, I've been in this business of radio and television for a lifetime, and I can remember when I had to explain to people in the early days of SBS what UHF meant. Now, UHF, for a great many people who know, stands for ultra high frequency. But for a great many Australians, for a long, long time, it meant ultra hard to find.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. And I think we're almost gone full circle, George, because, TV just in general, right? Let's take sport away from it.
Yep.
TV converting to digital has actually made it quite difficult to just get normal TV going, let alone any sort of streaming and subscription type stuff. So it's actually gone a little bit difficult. And my parents, kind of struggle with it. I know my in-laws definitely struggle with it. They're migrants who maybe don't understand how to get on a phone.
No. There's the other thing, Steve. There's the other thing too. They've had it free forever. Why should they pay for it?
Yeah,
that's another thing.
Well.
It's called a natural wall. It's called the pay wall for a very good reason. For some people, it's a pathway, and they know how to work it. And others go, no. And once they close their mind to it, you have an enormous job to try and fire them up and get them going. But let's come back to the game.
That's right.
When you mentioned the 40 and 50,000 crowds, I can well remember a night. Unfortunately, the only thing wrong with that night was that Victory emerged victorious, but it was 50 plus thousand, about 53, 4,000 at, as it was then, Telstra Dome or...
Marvel.
No, it wasn't. No. It was either Etihad or Telstra Dome. Ferran Soriano, who's the boss of the City Football Group, had flown to Melbourne to be here to have a look at how Melbourne City was heading and whether all the troops here understood the message. And he sat alongside me and he put his mobile phone away and he watched the game and he spent an awful lot of time looking at the crowd and soaking up the noise and the energy and the passion. And he was impressed. So, well, that you might think it was impressive, he, of course, who's one of the most talented and well-connected people, he was sitting there going, okay. And I can remember that night when he was questioned by some people about whether City really were meant to be here or whether they were going to spend enough money to make an impact. He said, not only are we going to be here for the long term, he said, not only do we want to be champions of Australia, but we also want to be champions of Asia. And that was the first time I ever heard it come out of the lips of someone at the very top. There was a mission, and it was very clear, and I understood from that day on that no matter what the naysayers and others we're going to talk about, the day would come. And sure enough, over the last few years, we've seen the Premiers emerge as a very, very consistently good side. And some days
now you're rubbing it in, George. Now you're rubbing
hang
it
on.
in,
Steve, you knew it. You could see him setting you. He was setting himself up for that. He's
hang on a minute. You can't be a Premier and not play good football.
No, that's
right.
Oh, I'm sorry, my friend.
No.
They've assembled a group of youngsters and some oldies, and I think they've done it in a fashion that I talked about earlier with Pokuah, who is not only someone who loves the game, but she's a commentator doing work for Paramount Plus. She's part of the Liberty Women's A-League, and it's a very important next generation. And she's pumped, not only because of what she's doing, and she wants to learn more. She's got this voracious appetite, and what she knew last week is not good enough. She wants to add to it and make it better this week. And that's the sort of people you need in the game, and it's also the people.
100%.
It's also the people you want to work with. Now, you're a coach. If I had a young goalkeeper and they had that attitude, would you be wearing a smile on your dial?
100%, George. There's nothing better than seeing a kid who desperately wants it. You know, I worked with a young boy. He was actually at City for a bit, and at Victoria. I won't mention his name, but I actually saw.
Did he have it?
I reckon he did, and he still does. He's had a couple of injuries. You know, this kid here, he would do anything. And he used to travel probably an hour and a half on a Saturday morning to my private academy. And I never charged him a bean because this kid here, I just could see he wanted it.
You were so excited by the talent.
100%. I had a lot of people who influenced my career as a youngster. I grew up in regional Victoria. Jeff Oliver, who's a mutual friend,
superstar,
was one of the guys who, you know, in his day, and there was none of this paying coaches and all that sort of stuff. I used to rock up to his house at 6 a.m. We'd do a session. He'd go off to FFV and work. That's all. That's what it was. And it was almost like, you know, the boys going out and having hit a golf. You know, we'd go out and do a training session. It was brilliant.
And we don't give them enough credit, do we? We don't give them credit for what they put back into the game.
Yeah, that's right. And I realised really quickly that there was my obligation to be able to help others. Now, obviously, I'm a coach. I earn a living from what I do. So, you know, there is a point where you've got to have that balance. But, you know, there's nothing better than seeing a kid who's got talent, but then also has that desire that he'll do anything to, like you were saying, to learn, to listen, to improve, and just, you know, and when they're good kids as well, it's even better.
See, Steve, I was George doesn't know this, but I used to be a goalkeeper when I was playing in
Well done. Well, you're gonna have to join our goalkeepers union.
Yeah, I was a goalkeeper.
Officially.
I was good. I actually had some skills, George. I can't lie about that. But the goalkeeping position in women's football at the moment, we've got some youngsters coming, but we seem to have see a transition of those kind of players heading to play AFL like W or things like that. Yeah. Is there, like, in terms of retaining those kinds of players, do you think we're doing enough maybe to develop goalkeeping, like goalkeepers in the women's game?
Yeah, look, it's a really good question, and it's hard. I work with Bree Davies, who's exactly, I don't know if you know Bree. I don't know what club she's at the moment. I think she was at Carlton for a bit, may have been at St Kilda.
Former dub player.
Bree was phenomenal when she was youngster as a goalkeeper. She had all the attributes that, if I'm allowed to say this, that the boys had as well. You know, her aggression, willingness to.
So where has she gone? Where did she get distracted?
Well, she went to AFLW, and she's a superstar in that game. I believe she's still playing. I haven't spoken to her. I think it was
Steve, why can't we fast track them if they're that good? And if you say to me, and I trust your eye, I trust your eye. Why can't we fast track them into the Matildas or the youth Matildas?
No, she was in. In a really short period of time, she was in there. And it's the same reason why most 15, 16, 17-year-old outfielders in the boys' game get pulled away to other sports is because, you know, we're not the number one sport.
Yeah.
It's not
They get to
that
play with their
glamorous.
friends. Is that what they want to play with their friends?
They go to the AFL or to basketball or to rugby or whatever. And, unless... See, when Brie was coming through, I think probably there wasn't as many girls going overseas to make a career of it. So there wasn't really a career. And she probably saw the WAFL as a place to maybe earn a bit more money so she could be full-time and all that sort of stuff. So, there's that'll come as well. That'll come with improvement in the women's game, improvement in the way funding can be distributed across the junior programs, and an acknowledgement that the or the women's game has a huge part to play in world football.
Yeah, I think for me, I was also say just quickly, George, is that the beautiful thing about football, especially now, is that there are players who play for Chelsea, who play for Arsenal, who play for the biggest clubs in the world, who are they're global names, and you can be more than just a local hero in Australia. You could be a global superstar, and
of course you can.
Yeah, and I think that if we don't highlight that enough. In terms of like getting more females to play football at a younger age, because football provides something that the AFL just can't.
It's a global passport.
Yeah, they just cannot provide.
Steve, how many women are you coaching at the moment?
0. But
do you have an open door? Do you have an open door?
Yeah, I do. But I actually, George, I'm not sure if you're aware, I don't actually run my private academy anymore.
Okay.
So my only coaching role, so my biggest coaching role for the last 2 years was coaching my son Samuel.
Got it.
And so what I did, I decided to step away from the A League.
Yep.
To concentrate on my family.
Yep.
And then I decided to actually step away from any coaching to be a dad for my son.
Bless
and help
you.
him
Fantastic.
through his journey, not just in sport, but in life.
In life.
And
It's important.
That's because my dad did that for me. Growing up in a place called Murderford, he used to drive me 4.5 hours just to come to Brighton and have a training session with the Victorian state team, and then drive back. And when I hear of parents going, "Oh, look, it's great." Basketball is a typical example. Basketball's great, but geez, we've got to go to Geelong some weekends, and then we've got to go. And I'm thinking, yeah, okay, 90 minutes down the road, big deal.
My father,
you get stuck in traffic, you're in the car that long.
The only game my father ever saw me play, because he worked, was the curtain raiser before Manchester United.
That's pretty
when
cool.
it was the Australian schoolboys up against the possibles and probables at the Sydney Cricket Ground under lights, and I had a terrific night, but that was the only time my father ever saw me play. And he wanted to. He turned to my mother and he said, "Oh, so this is what he's been doing."
That's a pretty
fantastic
cool
story.
It was special.
Yeah.
What made it even more galling was that 6 months later, I did a shoulder, and in those days they didn't recover. From injuries like that, because they didn't have a technology. They didn't have what they do today and repair
back in the
you.
30s.
Back in the
30s,
1900s,
like that,
actually,
right?
Steve. It's very nice.
But George,
it wasn't that long ago when we didn't have shoulder operations, my friend.
No, I know.
I love the way you.
I know, George.
Victory people want to.
I just thought I'd give you a little dig there, mate.
No, you're right. You're always
George,
welcome.
that's a great story, because obviously your father was a migrant, and that's all they did. My
he
father
had his
was
own business. He had to work. Yeah.
That's all they did. So just for him to be able to come and do that is must have been special for you, and a great occasion as well. And George, I'm still waiting on some footage or photos of you in your goalkeeper gear, so we can highlight you on our.
Mate, I don't know how to break.
Group.
I don't know how to break the news to you, but I'm going to explain this to Pokuah because she loves this. Do you remember when iPhone was released? Do you remember what year it was?
Yeah.
Like 07 and stuff.
2007. Do you remember when the iPad was released? It was 2010. My career had finished long before that, and we didn't. Unless you had a camera, my friend, in which I did have in my television career. I had plenty of cameras, but they all belonged to the major newspapers and others, you follow? So they took the photos. You didn't take the photos. So if you went with Pelé, if you went with Boy George, or you went with George Best, the Sydney Morning Herald or The Age took the photo. And, of course, then you had to hunt it and get it down.
Yep.
But today, in this modern world of ours,
Snap.
we don't take just one photo because the narcissist in all of us goes, oh, let me take 45 and I can delete later.
You need options, George. You need options. Can't just go with one. You need options.
No, that's right.
Okay, so
Yeah, I know, George.
So just explain.
But there was nothing better than waiting at that 1 hour photo
booth,
waiting for your photos to get developed.
You and your girlfriend, I can remember those days, and people behind you going, "Let us in, let us in."
Yeah, that's it.
So tell me now. So take me back. You've just signed a new deal. You're going to coach.
Look, Yep. So I'm actually, my official title, and I don't generally like these types of titles.
Pokuah loves this because she puts it on the postscript of the program. Go on.
Yeah, come on.
Official
Fantastic.
title.
So my official title is the technical director
Yep.
for Kingston City Football Club in the NPL. One of the NPL divisions. I can't even tell you which one. I think they're second division.
As a technical director, let me ask you a question, because you're a goalkeeping coach and you've had a long career in the game. Is the football today, the actions of the football, the way the football reacts today, appreciably different to the days when the balls were almost without a dimple?
Yeah. Definitely they are. They've gone through different stages at different World Cups, especially when Adidas has released. I think the ball that was released for 2010 World Cup was a bit of a strange one.
The Jabalani. Pokuah was right on the money. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, well done, Pokuah. It was and they'd also toyed with some stuff. I remember the Tango 2008. No, sorry, 1982 or 86 World Cup. It was brought out, the black and white Adidas one. That
for Barcelona.
It was a little bit truer.
For Barca.
Yeah, but I think it may have been the Tango for one of the World Cups. But anyway, then a lot of things have changed, right? So the technology of gloves. My first pair of gloves, I may as well have just dismantled a table tennis bat and stuck that stuff on my hands.
I don't know about you, but you know what we called goalkeepers with gloves in my day?
Yeah. You're not allowed to say this on the radio.
That's true. But there was a marvellous man. His name was Ron Lord. Ron Lord is still alive. A fabulous goalkeeper for New South Wales, for Australia and for Prague. Yeah. He's 90 plus years of age. He's about 93, 94, yeah. He's on my Facebook. He is the most fabulous and committed and not only a great family man, he has been a champion for ages and ages and ages. Yeah. And the only things that Ron had were some bandages on his knees and the hands were bare. There was none of this putting gloves on, please.
No,
what manner of person are you?
No, I understand it. George, I made my old A-League NSL debut in 1989.
Goodness, that was last
was
century.
against Sydney Olympic, and
now,
Gary Meyer was the goalkeeper.
Oh, terrific
Remember
character.
Gary Meyer?
Yeah, I absolutely. 7 foot tall.
What a character he was.
7 foot tall.
And he... Yeah, 7 foot tall, and he didn't wear gloves even then.
Well, I'm telling you, they made us. I'll say it very slowly. They made us very tough, Steve. Very tough.
Yeah, I know.
There was this. We used to lick our fingers and go, I just want to feel the ball on my hands. I can't imagine wearing a 4 foot. What do they call it? They make it sticky. They make it.
Oh, yep. I can
latex.
Latex now, is it? Latex. The last time I saw latex, mate, it was on a runway for fashion models. Oh, actually, hang on a minute. I remember your wife and a fantastic fashion parade, and there was an awful lot of latex on that show.
Well,
Melissa just absolutely killed it that night.
That's right, in the city. Yeah, one of her art exhibitions.
Do you remember that fantastic evening?
Yeah, look, I'm not allowed to remember the models too much. I'm not allowed to talk about that because
I don't know about you.
George's trying to get you in trouble.
No, Melissa put me at the head of the runway. I had to, as a judge, imagine,
You're a judge for a fashion
and my
show?
wife was looking at me going, Yes.
See, Steve, you wouldn't know, but today on the show we've talked about Britney Spears, Lady Gaga. Now we're talking about fashion. Sufin
Madonna.
Sufin has really
Spare.
changed.
Fantastic. Well, it's great. It's great chat. I love George. I love sitting down with you guys and chatting and all things football. And I could talk for hours, right?
Well, tell us about this cohort of goalkeepers that you're bringing together for a regular, get together. You've been very proactive behind the scenes, not only at Kingston City, but also now with this idea of bringing some of these goalkeepers, men and women, from the grand days. Maybe we might be able to get Tony Maglis to join us, Gary Meyer to join us, Greg Woodhouse, who was with me at Prague.
What a name that was,
Yeah.
So look, George, I rang you when I came up with this idea, and it was only spawned by the fact that I hadn't caught up with a lot of people, and in thinking about all these people, old mates of mine, they're all goalkeepers, and I went, maybe I should just put them all together, and we'll go out for lunch sometime and talk about how good we used to be, and that kind of progressed to speaking with you, and then speaking with Jeff and a couple of Peter Blasby, and it's kind of grown. We've got about 30 or 40 ex-goalkeepers, both men and women.
Count 41 now, because Pokuah Frimpong is in this as well.
Yeah,
I'm a goalkeeper.
No problems. I'll send you a link, Pokuah. You can join.
Excellent.
You can join.
Excellent.
And at the moment, it's only been just a bit of communication, a bit of banter. We kind of through the app watched the World Cup and made some comments on how well the Aussies did and all that sort of stuff, and it's kind of died down a bit. But I am sort of working away in the background. I would like this group of guys to maybe get together regularly. I think it's important that us ex-professionals especially do have a
Do
keep
keep with the game today. I agree.
Yeah, because George, we're all at some point in our lives identified as professionals, as soccer players or goalkeepers or whatever. And then once you leave that, what I noticed as well, once you leave that, sometimes you lose your identity, but you start sort of thinking about, I miss this and I miss that, and and it also can lead to, and I'm not saying it has for anyone that I know, but I have heard about it. It can also lead to, some mental health issues.
Sure.
And I think it's quite healthy to be able to connect, retain that banter without it being, anything sinister or anything like that, but just that football banter or that sports banter that we all sort of love within the game. But I also want to take it to...
Yeah, go on.
I also want to take it, George, to another level and see if we can start doing some good with this. So I'm planning on getting us together with and having a lunch and maybe just... brainstorming what we could do. But my vision for this group is to say, okay, well, we've got a group of old goalkeepers here, right, who once were, were maybe admired.
Capable.
And capable. And can we, give something back to someone in some way? I mean, the one idea I had was maybe we can look at raising some money and then being able to help some
youngsters,
kids youngsters who are talented, maybe can't quite afford the
or
fees,
disadvantaged.
Disadvantaged.
Great idea. Pokuah and I have a legitimate question for you as a technical director. The modern goalkeeper, how much has the craft changed? Because we're starting to see some howlers, and there was one the other day in the London Derby where Hugo Lloris, who's a World Cup winner. Who's a World Cup winner. Sometimes when he does silly things, my voice doesn't want to mention his name. But suddenly we're seeing errors creep into their game. What is it?
Yeah.
Because they are world-class keepers, and you'll see them, and you see in the EPL, the margins are so small between success and failure. The London Derby the other day was won by Arsenal. But had it not had that early start, which gave Arsenal that energy, that extra energy, that game could have been a very different one. Ramsdale did not put a foot wrong, was almost impassable, whereas Hugo made an error and let the side down at a critical juncture. Now, when I say let the side down, every player has that capacity, but it's accentuated, amplified, because this is the way of the world in this day. If you're a wicketkeeper and you drop a catch, it's a calamity. Yeah. You follow? If you're in second slip 100%. And you drop it, it was dropped. Yeah? But if the keeper does it, he can't be a wicketkeeper. Now, I say to people time and time again, everyone makes a mistake many times in a game. The only problem is, depending on your position, if a centre forward misses a tackle, it ain't a problem. Centre half misses a problem, it could be a problem. Yeah. But the goalkeeper misses it, it's a goal. That's the difference. Yeah. So depending on your perspective and your position, it's a calamity. So why are we seeing, because are the subtleties of the ball movement now creating even more pressures for the goalkeeper?
Look, I don't think these pressures are unique to this
I didn't say unique
style of football.
I'm just talking about this era, where the ball is super light, and we're seeing people now taking shots, secure in the knowledge that they don't have to get it in the goal, they just have to hit someone, and the deflection is going to go anywhere and everywhere. Yeah. You follow?
Yeah, of course.
So the game has now become like pinball, and that wasn't the case.
I think
Pelé did not play ping pong. No. Pelé did not play ping pong.
I know, but he was a freak. I think that the pressures of making that one mistake have always been in the art of goalkeeping, right?
Yes.
And when I coached at Victory and I had to evaluate goalkeepers, one of the evaluations was the consistency and how often they would be making mistakes and how often that would be costing us any sort of points.
Yep.
And again, I won't mention his name, but we had a youngster who was absolutely brilliant from the age of 12. I sort of tracked him. He was going to be the greatest.
The next big thing.
But the unknown with goalkeepers is how are they going to handle that pressure?
Yeah.
And how are they going to be consistent? And someone like Mark Schwarzer is probably one of the most renowned EPL goalkeepers of all time, because he had a level of consistency. Okay, he probably wasn't as flashy as most.
No, but he loved pressure. He's a big boy. He's a big unit.
But he never gave you a 3 or a 4 out of 10. It was always a 7 to 8 out of 10. You know what I mean? Like
you and I assess.
Were like that.
Oh yeah, you and I assess goalkeepers a little bit differently. I see a lot of the modern keepers, and De Gea is one of them. He's a shot stopper. Yeah. He's not a goalkeeper in my parlance, and he's a fine shot blocker. But technically, he's a waste of time in a corner. He's never going to come out and claim the ball, and if and when he does, it's very rare. You follow? He normally is glued to his line, and it'll stick a foot out. It'll do that and the other. Prodigious in that regard, but as a goalkeeper in pure technical terms, I don't rate him that high. You follow? And yet he's been outstanding for them.
Yeah, in the English game, the sort of the keepers from the continent do struggle with that. You know, you were talking about Lloris before. He has a reputation of not being very good on anything aerial, and it's a difficult. When you see goalkeepers coming and claiming crosses, they're on top of their game.
Exactly.
More so than when they make.
But it should be part of your game. It shouldn't be. 100%. I'm only going to do. Oh, he's very confident today. I don't want to see. It's what you touched on a moment ago. I want to see it every game. You come out. You come out. Yes, you're going to make the occasional mistake, but you come out because you see the opportunity to use your hands in a way that sets you in the prominent position of stopping an attack and launching an attack. That's the beauty of a real good goalkeeper. It's two-way traffic. You stop and you start. And that's what I remember my Josef Venglos, who was one of my coaches in my youth, he loved the fact that not only did I stop the ball, but I could launch it quickly, either by arm or by foot. In the days when you could punch the ball with a drop kick, which they don't do today. No point wasting it. No point wasting it. Just hoof it. Or sorry,
in those days you could roll the ball down
feet.
and pick it back up. George, remember that? Where you roll it down and pick it back up.
Sorry, I didn't play that
in
far
those
back,
days.
mate. No, that was 1890s. Thanks very much for that, Steve Mautone. Giving me hell. These early days between the Melbourne Heart and Victory, they still linger.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next for you? Who do you? How far is the season away from starting?
Yeah, look, I've come into it a little bit late. We're 3 weeks away from the start of the season. And my role at the club, George, just to clarify, is not just looking after the goalkeepers. I'm actually looking at the whole program from the under-18 MCL teams all the way down to the little kids. So there's a lot of work to be done. You know, the club is fantastic. I just feel from my initial assessments, they just lacked any sort of framework.
Yep.
And when you have a bit of framework, right, you can then assess and evaluate and work out where to improve. So that's probably where I see my biggest task is just adding a little bit of framework to the coaches, the way they do their sessions, what the club wants to be, and I suppose how they want to be viewed. So, for example, you know, when you go to play City, you know the type of environment you're going to get into, the type of play they are. You know,
correct.
That they, you know, some people call it the club's DNA. I just think it's just an attitude that the club needs to have and maintain and move forward, and that's probably where I see my role. And really looking forward to the challenge. It is a big challenge because you've not only got the players' expectations to deal with and the coaches and the clubs, but you've also got the parents' expectations. And, unfortunately...
Keep the parents away from the coaches, all right? Just do that. That's a big role. Before we go, before I let you go, Pokuah and I always love to identify the better players in the competition. Who's the best keeper in the A-League?
I think the boy from Adelaide, I'd have to say. His name's just slipped. I watched the game the other night.
Go on.
Gauchi?
Yeah, young Gauchi, ex-Melbourne City.
Yep.
Ex-Melbourne City.
You've always got a way to turn it back to the city.
Yeah. But I'm going to make you feel. I'm going to make you feel very strong because I reckon there's a young goalkeeper who plays for the Western Sydney Wanderers who's pretty good.
Who's that?
Come on, you should know. Very good young keeper.
Steve, I'm also out as well, so you keep searching while I keep searching. Figure it out.
Oh, my gosh. I can't even Google it. I'm on the phone.
Wasn't there a young goalkeeper at Victory that made a huge impression? Young Lawrence?
Lawrence, yeah. Is he at Western Sydney? No, Western Sydney, sorry.
Western Sydney Wanderers.
So
you were thinking of United. No.
Yeah.
That's the former Brisbane Roar keeper.
No, that's right. Lawrence Thomas is an interesting case because he went over to England when he was really young. I don't know if I've got time to tell this story, but I'll tell it anyway. You can stop me. He went over to England when he was really young and he was at Coventry. He was sitting on the bench as a youngster, 16, 17 and 18-year-old. And he came back and I'd heard about him and got him down to trial. And in fact, he was meant to be trialling at Melbourne City, right? And I said to him, no problem. You can go to City after us. Just come to us. We'll pay your flight, and then no problem. City will be happy because they've saved an airfare for you. So naively, he come to us first, and then we ended up signing him. So he never. And then when City was ringing to say you're going to come, he goes, "No, I've already got a deal here." But he was one of those where we didn't know whether he was going to progress because of this whole mental thing. Like in the youth teams, he was. I think Ante Kovic was there, and he was making similar mistakes all the time in the youth, and I'm thinking, the kid's not learning from it. It's not learning from it.
No.
But then once he got his opportunity,
it wasn't a case of learning. Do you know what it is in that age group? It's the focus. Until you put them under enormous pressure, and this is where Lawrence just, grew up. The minute he realised the enormity of the challenge at Victory, he grew a leg. I never saw him put a bad game together. And that's for a real hard critic, that's a big deal. That's a big call. He was marvellous for you guys for Victory at the time, for an awful long time, and he's still a fine goalkeeper and has enormous potential. And it's a pity that he hasn't had a chance to showcase his wares at a higher level.
Yeah, I think that'll come. He's still young, I think.
Well,
in terms of
goalkeepers can play till 45, even 50.
Yeah.
Maybe in the secret goalkeepers club, they've got like a magic potion that lets them just play for a really long time.
You've spoken to Gordon Banks, have you? Well done. Steve Mautone has been our special guest on State of Our Football Nation on Football Nation Radio. Thank you for joining us. We will do this again, my friend.
Pleasure.
And in the meantime, get those other goalkeepers to join us on FNR as well.
100%. I'll put it out there, George, and no doubt